West Highland whwrace. It's great to see so many people here tonight to our training and inspiration evening, which we've been doing for quite a number of years now. And I think the feedback we've always had is it's a great opportunity to hear from people who have done it before, have different types of experience on the medical side. We're also lucky to hear from Ultra about some of their products tonight. So hopefully we've got an awful lot to get through. It'll be a great night. Off right away, our first presentation, first act is that we're delighted to have Lucy Colquhoun here. And I'm not going to do an introduction. I'm going to let Adrian, who's going to say do a bit of an interview with Lucy. I'll let Adrian do the introduction. Adrian.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. As they say, if you organise it, they will come. So it's always weird when you sit down in November and think, oh gosh, how are we going to get people to come? So thank you. Anyway, that's always encouraging. I'm just going to ask Lucy to come up and say, welcome, Lucy Colquhoun, West Highland Way record holder. Come on, Lucy. So that's coming out okay. Is your mic working okay?
Yeah.
Yes. This is, I guess, Lucy and I guess I'm happy enough to call her a long-time friend. I think we still are. So we're just going to have a little chat, because I've become aware the last few years that there are many people just in the West Highland Way family and even in the wider Ultra community, now that Ultra has grown so much, who see this name Lucy Colquhoun, or haven't even seen it before, and think, who is this gal? Who is this gal that ran 17 hours, whatever it was, minutes on the Highland Way those years ago? And so I'm going to spend about 10 to 15 minutes just so we get to know a bit more about Lucy, and then John is going to take over and do his little bit, which he usually does with so many runners, just talking more about how they train and how they shouldn't train, and if she's got any magical tips for all you first-timers there. Okay. So, Lucy, you're from Aberdeenshire originally.
Nobody believes me as soon as you hear my accent. I am born and bred Aberdeen, but blame my parents.
And did you do any sport at all at school?
Hilariously, no. Nothing, no. I was very slow and lazy and avoided sport because I hated team sport. And when I went back to my school reunion and told my sports teacher I was a runner, she didn't believe me. So, yeah.
Okay. So when did you first start getting interested in running?
I was quite old, so I think I was about 30. Yeah, about 30. I'd never done any real kind of sport or exercise. I'd done the occasional swim. And I was living in London, which, being from Aberdeen, I pretty much hated. And my only sanity was this green park near where I lived. So I started jogging around the park, and I had no idea, you know, if I was slow or fast, or I just did a bit more, and then moved to Edinburgh, and somebody said, oh, Lucy runs, she should go out running with you. And this girl was a sub 3 hour marathon runner, and I wasn't. But luckily she'd had 4 children, so she was on mat leave, and then that was that, so she just got me into it.
And can you remember when you did your first race, when you first pinned a number on, as it were?
Yeah. It was Seafield, the British Gas 10K, Scottish Gas 10K or something, and I was really intimidated because I didn't know if I could run that long, and everyone else had t-shirts on like, oh, I've done Virgin London Marathon and stuff, and I thought, oh god, I haven't done anything. Yeah. It's
interesting, we're looking at some stats, as I geekily do. I came across one of your first entries in Power 10, happens to be the Shreechin Moy Self-Transcendence 5-mile race,
well,
which I organised, and I can't remember Lucy running at all.
I don't remember doing it, Adrian.
It was on the 19th of May 2004, a 5-mile on Silver Naz Esplanade. You ran 32 minutes 34 seconds.
Well,
yeah.
There you go.
And I guess, like many people, you then did a marathon and a few other things, and then what is your memory of your first foray beyond the marathon?
As a race, do you
yes.
mean? It was the Highland Fling, I think. Was it not? Oh God, I don't really remember I don't remember anything, to be fair.
Do you remember a little race called the Larry Grew?
I remember the Larry Grew. I didn't. Yeah.
That was pre-Fling. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a local race. I don't know. Probably half of you have heard of it, but
anyone not heard of the Larry Grew? Yeah, you
right,
know what it is.
okay, so
how many have done the Larry Grew? Yeah? Yeah, a few people, yeah. It's a nice little trek, isn't it? Yeah.
So my parents live near Braemar, so it was a kind of local race, and I had done a lot of hill running because I was in Carnethy, and I'd done a lot of road running, and yeah, I do remember that because I remember setting off and the bloke next to me going, "You're going far too fast," and yeah, and it was okay.
And being a long-time ultra geek, that was when Lucy first came on my radar properly, because the course record was held by a lady who some of you will know by the name of Helen Diamantidis, who is no slouch. Her main claim to fame was she was the original Jasmine Paris. She won the original Dragons back in Wales outright and beat all the guys. Yeah. Fast forward a few years, and then I saw the result of the Larry Grew, and I thought, Helene's record is gone, and Lucy who has broken it. And things move on anyway, yeah, and finally we got sort of know each other, and you then started doing a few more options. You did the fling and set the record and won that. I mean, then it goes on Para 10 or the DUV, you'll see all these wonderful races and that, but fast forward a bit, what first inspired you to have an inkling that you wanted to run the West Highland Way?
I didn't for ages, but the previous organiser, Dario, he knew me, I think, or had known that I'd done the fling, and he phoned me, and he must have phoned me about 5 times to say, "Oh, do you want to do the West Highland Way?" And I said no. And he kept phoning me, and eventually I remember really clearly being on the phone for half an hour saying, "I just don't want to do it, I don't think I can do it." And he persuaded me, and also he'd been at the same school as me, so I think he tried to kind of use that, "Oh, come on," and old schoolmates and things, and so did it.
And I think you were sort of serious about it, but you were kind of laid back about it as well, because I don't know if you recall this, but I can remember I was running that year, you did it, and I was sitting at home Friday lunchtime getting all my things together, and the phone goes. And I thought, do I want to answer the phone? So I'm about to have a nap. Don't I want to answer the phone? I said, well, my backup saying they can't make it, the car's broken down. So I answered the phone. It says, "Hello, it's Lucy. Do you remember this?"
Was it because I didn't have a waterproof jacket?
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm not very organised. I think it was the day before.
And the conversation went something like, "This is the day before. This is lunchtime, 12 hours before the start, okay?" And this thing we're doing tonight, says you need a waterproof jacket. Is that for real? And I'm thinking,
yeah.
And so we chatted about it. Well, it's in the rules. Dario likes you to have it. It's a bad example to all the slower people. And yeah, you're going to be fast. You're not going to get cold. The forecast's good, but Dario could DQ you if you don't have it. Basically, yeah. So, did you actually have a jacket? Did you have to go to run and buy one?
I had to buy one, and then I wore my friends instead. But anyway, this isn't the advice bit. The advice bit is be really organised. Don't do that.
And how organised were you going into the race, or were you fairly laid back about it?
I can't really. I mean, I remember being fairly relaxed in that, you want to do well, but you don't think anything amazing is going to happen. So I remember being really worried about sleep deprivation and panicking that I was going to be tired. So I slept, I think, for a few hours in the afternoon. But the biggest thing that I did seriously, because I love my food, so I spent £100 in Tesco. I think I pretty much bought everything, because people said, "Oh, you never know what you're going to crave. It must be like being pregnant." And so I just bought everything. I mean, not healthy stuff like cake and crisps and pot noodle. And I remember it came to over £100, and I ate practically none of it at all. I think I had like a few jelly babies and a banana or something. So,
but your backup were okay. Your backup
they were fine. Yeah, they're really well catered for. Yeah, it was good.
So just tell us a little bit about the race. I mean, how did you approach it? I mean, did you approach it at all, or just let's go and have a fun day in the hills? I reread a report a couple of days ago that I'd written, because it's a long time ago, so I can't really remember. I had asked the chap who won when I did it, Adrian, and I knew him, and I asked him what... This is Adrian Davis, by the way.
What he used on the race, and he used a cycling milkshake, which I'd never heard of. So again, not really good at tried and test. I was like, well, that's fine. So I had that, and it was actually fine. And I didn't look at my watch until Tyndrum. That's what I remembered from the report, because I thought, well, there's no point. What's the point of trying to do splits? It's not a road marathon. You can't go any faster than you're going. So it's the unknown, and just approach it, as kind of relaxed but focused. I remember it was like being back at school. I got told off for talking. So about 4 miles outside Mulgai, there's a bridge, and I was chatting away to the person next to me, blah, 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 and where are you from? And like, stop talking, get running. So, but it's early days, you've got a long time to be out, right? So.
Yeah. And as the race unfolded, as you got further up the course, did you have any idea of the time you might run, or had you any idea beforehand?
I didn't know the record before, and I had no idea what I was going to do. But again, when I reread the report, because I knew that Adrian was in front of me, and then when I got to Tyndrum, apparently I said, how many people are in front? And they said, nobody. I was like, oh, right. And then it was only in the really latter stages, maybe I don't remember, 20 miles to go, that my support crew said, the record, such and such, you might get it. And then that annoyed me, because then I thought, right, okay, I quite fancy, well, that sounds good. But then I had 2 support crews. Anyone who knows me will know this, but I had my ex-husband and then my then boyfriend. So quite an interesting combination. See you at the next checkpoint. So one of them was really positive, going, yeah, you've totally got this is great. And the other one was a really dour Yorkshireman. He kept going, well, don't know. Well, I mean, you might get it. Not very helpful.
And how the race developed with Adrian, because you were ahead of him at one point, and I've heard Adrian's version of it, but let's hear your version of how it evolved.
I don't remember much of. I remember following his shorts for a few miles, and he was skipping along, and I was thinking, oh crikey, this is quite hard work. And at one point I asked him how long till the next section, and he said, it's 4 miles, and it was 8 miles, so I was really cursing him, and I was convinced it was mind games and things. And then I must have overtaken him before Tyndrum, obviously. And then the only other bit I remember, we got to King's House Cottages before you go up the Devil's Staircase, and I was absolutely knackered. I was completely bonking and shivering, and hadn't eaten enough of my £100 food. And Adrian's support team were there, and I just had a cup of tea. And I was like, oh, thank God, a cup of tea. And then his support crew knocked it over. I was like, that's sabotage, I can't believe you did. I think it was the dog, but I was convinced it was sabotage. And then Adrian overtook me, and I was like, so that's all I really remember. Then I didn't see him, I don't think.
And for those that don't know, the winning time was second place time, First Lady, 17 hours, 16 minutes and 20 seconds, which is still no one's really come very close to. Do you think it can be beaten?
Yeah, totally, because I got lost twice. So I got lost I should you should have got someone else to do this. I hope you get your money back. Sorry.
You're asking the question, you're actually only up to it, it's okay.
I got lost within about the first 5 miles, because there were these, and there always are any, and I apologise if there's anyone like this in the room, but you always get a few kind of overconfident, probably undercompetent people, and there were a few ex-army lads, and they're like, yeah, we've done loads of long runs, and they were going quite fast, and I thought, geez, they're either really good or really stupid. And then they got us lost, and only for half a mile, but it's quite stressful at the beginning of a race. So we got lost then, and then in the very last section, when I was trying to go really fast, I probably wasn't, but relatively really fast, because it was the end, and then I went the official route marker, which is, so I think I added on a section, which didn't really need to do. So I think it can be beaten, but I mean, that's kind of maybe a trivial bit, because that's maybe 5-10 minutes. But I think the standard of running and the way that people approach it now, I think I approached it in an unplanned way. I didn't really know ultra running was. So I was a marathon runner. I was a road runner. I mean, I'd done hills, but I did I was like a 78-minute half marathon runner. So it was kind of handy. Not super amazing, but I was fast, flat. And I think lots of people then did ultras just by doing lots of slow, long running, which doesn't work, because that just makes you a slow, long runner. So I think inadvertently I approached it well, and that served me well. And I think that now, 10, 12 years on, there's loads of really, really fast people that come and do trail running in the kind of level of competency it needs to be done. Because I think for a while it was like, oh, that's a slow person's sport. And I did have an ex-boyfriend that tried to tell me it was a slow person's sport. That didn't go very well.
And just to finish up on the Highland Way, I have memories then at the prize giving.
I couldn't walk at the prize giving.
We were all waiting for the prize giving. Darren was saying, has anyone seen Lucy? Anyone seen Lucy? Where's Lucy? We've got prize giving starting in 5 minutes. And then Lucy appears being pushed in a wheelchair. Tell us how. Do you want to tell us about that?
Again, things have moved on so much since I did it, and knowledge, as I'm sure we'll hear from Sean, about medical conditions and, you know, the multiple ways in which you can die if you do long races and things. But I was pretty ignorant, which is probably a good thing. What's it? Compartment syndrome. Some people have probably Googled it. And I didn't know that's what I had, but when I finished the race, first of all, spectacular vomiting. That's something to prepare for and tell your support crew, like projectile vomiting. And then I went to bed, I can't remember, say midnight or whenever it was, and then woke up with the most excruciating pain I have ever had. And thought I'd broken both my legs, and had to get a fireman's lift to the hospital. And they x-rayed me, and they said, no, you haven't broken anything, it's just wear and tear. But it wasn't, really. It was, compartment syndrome. So I put £1 in the slot of Morrison's, which is really conveniently located near the prize giving hall, if it still is. So that was £1, and I was in a wheelchair, and it was brilliant. But then I couldn't walk for about 3 days.
So the recovery wasn't that swift.
Wasn't that?
That swift.
No.
So that's obviously a milestone in your running career. Fast forward a year or so, you then became, I don't know if you were the first, but you were certainly the last British athlete to win CCC. Where does that rank on the scale of your running achievements over the years?
I would say that's the best. That's the thing I think I'm most proud of, and partly because, well, there's a theme here, right? So the first year I went to do it, I got lost. I was second by 11 minutes, and I got lost by going up an extra mountain, and actually ran into a hotel during a wedding reception in the middle of the race, right? So I was really cross, and I'd also fallen down one of those culverts, the channels, and I'd cut my knee and all the rest of it. Anyway, so I was really angry, because I remember, I didn't usually cry like if I lost stuff, but I cried because I was so angry, and then the girl who won accused me of cheating. I wasn't cheating, I ran up an extra mountain. Anyway, so I was so angry that I went back to do it the following year. So I think, if you put so much effort into something, and I was determined not to get lost, and so I had like 7 friends that came, and they had a bed sheet, like literally a bed sheet, so bigger than that, and with an arrow, so that I went the right way, the way that I got lost the last year. And I ran like really hard, and again, I think it's an intensity thing. So I used to get a lot of nausea, because when you run that hard, and I don't know, I'm sure people here know that, but or sprinters or whatever, and you just feel really, really sick. So I remember, like, again, projectile vomiting, but this was during the race. So I was like, okay, right. And then the mayor of the village offered me a whiskey. Which I didn't want, funnily enough. 15 hours into a race or whatever it was. But I remember trying to just run my socks off, and it was the middle of the night, and came through with like 3 miles to go to the finish, and they were going, bravo, bravo, and then they were like, c'est une femme, because they thought it was all blokes, and I was like, Anyway, so yeah, I was really, really pleased and really ill for hours after that and had drug tests and in between vomiting. But yeah, I think not to in any way sort of compare the two, because the West Highland Way is a different thing, but that is brutal. I mean, it's just brutal because it's just hills like this, mountains like that. So.
And we could talk all night, but we don't have time, unfortunately. Just winding on over the next few years, he was running for Great Britain, running for Scotland. For those of you who look up Lucy's records, someone talked her into running 100k in Italy. Get her first
that
GB
was so
best.
dull, and it was laps of a road, and I named the corners, so there was Dead Hedgehog Corner, because I'd passed it like 8 times.
If I haven't said sorry enough, I'll say sorry again, because it was me that
And
talked
then
her
also,
into doing it.
Adrian's a really bad driver, so sorry, but he collected me from the airport, and then we had this daredevil, like, white knuckle ride at about midnight through the mist. It was terrifying.
I was enjoying it. Anyway, 4th place in World Trail Championships, and it was in Ireland.
3rd place?
In Ireland, you were
Got bronze medal.
3rd. 4th in the Commonwealth Trail Champs. There's a whole list of them. And then, obviously, it got less competitive, but just briefly, how important a role do dogs now play in your life when you were running?
I totally made him ask me that question. Yeah, I live in the Borders and I don't run competitively, and I've got 2 lovely dogs that pull me around, and they're big and strong, so they can pull me up the hill. Yeah, so very important, and it's a good excuse to multitask and take the dogs out. So.
And although she always says when you meet, I'm just a recreational runner these days, she's still placing quite high in events if you look up.
I know, but I very rarely do any events, unless there's dogs or wine involved.
Well, we could talk all night, but we have to move on. So I just want to say thanks very much for Lucy. I'm going to hand over to John, because John is going to talk more about another aspect of Lucy, and maybe something a bit more relevant to people who are aiming for a little weekend in July coming up. Okay, but thanks very much, Lucy. That was great.
Yeah,
June, sorry.
I do this. I'm in my own house on Skype, or maybe in my living room chatting to someone. For those who don't know, I'm John. I do the podcasts just for my own interest. How many people have listened to the podcast? Oh, look at that. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so this will be on the podcast as well. Now, Lucy, I remember that 2007. That was my first race. And I remember when you came to get your prize, the applause was incredible. And I just thought that was normal, but I realized it wasn't, because that performance was just superb. So congratulations. And I wanted just to maybe tease a little bit out of you some of your training and preparation for the race. So are you someone who plans? Do you have a schedule that you'd have done 6 months before and you like to tick off your runs?
I didn't have a schedule for that run, but despite my appearances and of kind of general incompetence, I was actually pretty focused. So I had running coaches for about, I don't know, 4 years, and as this sounds really bad, I was about to say another ex-boyfriend, but okay, as an ex-boyfriend said, it's a brave man that tells Lucy what to do, but the one person that could tell me what to do and get away with it was the coach, because I followed religiously, like to the letter, what I was told to do for years. And yeah, so I was very, very structured, and I used to get sent a weekly training program, and yeah, I mean, absolutely 100%. There was no, I wasn't winging it. I didn't know how I was going to do, but I was following the instructions of people that knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Okay, so we're now at the end of February, 4 months away from the race. So can you remember what would be a typical week at this sort of stage of your training?
I can't remember by that kind of phasing, but I reread some training diaries before coming to this, and I was astonished. I was like, bloody hell, who's this? They were doing a lot. I can't begin to imagine doing that now. But a typical week would be 2 speed sessions. They were hard speed sessions, so it might be a hill thing or reps, but fast. You're sub 6 minute miling it. It was fast, and a tempo run, and then weekends. And I remember this, and this was probably after the West Highland Way, to be fair, because then I did more long stuff. But a typical weekend, it was like this. I remember this is imprinted in my head. It said 4 hours surging on the hills. I defy anyone to surge after 4 hours going uphill, but that's what I was told to. So typically weekends would be back to back, because that's what you want to replicate of running on tired legs. So 4 hours on Saturday, 3 hours on Sunday.
Have you got any idea what sort of mileage you were averaging at that stage?
At the peak, 100 miles, but generally about 85. And I would, again, I haven't kept up to date with running stuff, and I imagine it's changed, but I would my one sort of, for what it's worth, piece of advice would be, it's not about it just isn't about the volume. It's just not. I mean, obviously you've got to know that you can do it, but I'd never run 95 miles before I did the West Highland Way. So, you've got, like the previous coach would say, to be a good marathon runner, you've got to be a good half marathon runner. To be a good half marathon runner, you've got to be a good 10K runner, etc., etc. So, you've got to do the quality speed stuff, I think.
Yeah. I think one of the things that most people talk about in their training is the long runs and building those up. So again, just give us a little bit of a sense of what you would do in, say, the 4 months between now and the race, if you were doing it again, or if you think back, in a sense of your long runs. What sort of distance would you cover?
I mean, I hadn't done anything longer than 53 miles before I did the thing, so I don't think you need to do that. And I wouldn't, if I was sitting on the other side now, I wouldn't be thinking, oh God, I need to do an 80-mile training run, because I think part of the beauty of it is mentally, and you want it enough and your legs will carry you through, and also there's an element of surprise, and I think that's quite nice, to leave something unfinished before the day. I know some people take a different approach and they run the West Highland Way every weekend. It's like, bloody hell, why would you, So yeah, I think leave something undiscovered. So 4 months out, I mean, you'd want to know you could do a 40-mile run and feel pleased, I think, feel competent, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I think the other thing that a lot of us think about is the fling and the West Highland Way. Now, I realise that you did the fling not knowing you were going to do the West Highland Way. But again, if you did that again, just give us your thoughts on doing the fling as a race or as a training run, as in preparation of the West Highland Way.
I would do it as a race. And I think most people will, because, it's the classic thing that all these people in the start of a race going, I'm just treating it as a training run, and then they're like, like a greyhound. So, it's very hard to keep that adrenaline back. And I think, race it, because it's a quality race. And your body, I remember finishing that and thinking, how the hell does anybody carry on and do the same again? That's just nuts. But your mind is incredible. I would run your socks off on the Highland Fling.
Okay, there you go. And another question which I think a lot of us have to think about is tapering. Okay, just how much should you taper? So give us a sense of what you did in the few weeks before the race.
One thing I remember about tapering is I got really sore legs, and I think that's, everybody gets that, and you keep forgetting that that's what you get. So your paranoia kicks in. You think, oh my God, I've got really sore legs. They're really heavy. I've put on so much weight. I'm never going to be able to run. That's completely normal. And everybody needed to remind me of that. So that's just a kind of reassurance. I would maybe do, the last long run, I'd probably do like 20 miles the week before, and I would definitely do a speed thing in the week leading up to the race, but don't completely break yourself, but a wee sharp 5K or 5 mile, because you want to feel that you've got springiness there, I think. Don't go and do stupid things like do 40 miles the week before, but I would maybe do 18, 20 miles the weekend before, maybe, I think.
Okay. Another question which I'm interested in is your support crew and checkpoints, because you can waste a lot of time in checkpoints, can't you? But if you're running the sort of time, 17 hours and a few minutes, then obviously you can't mess around too much. So tell us a bit about your strategy for checkpoints.
I didn't have a strategy, but again, I think anyone who, when you're in race mode, you're in race mode, right? It's not a day out. As much as I'd spent all that money on food, it's not a picnic. And your crew need to know you really well. And I think some people work well with carrot and some are stick, but I think you kind of need a bit of stick in that situation, because if they let you sit down and make you another cup of tea, that's not fair. It's not. You need somebody to say, right, on you get. But I didn't really need that because I didn't want to stop. So I stopped twice in the whole time. I sat down once for about 6 minutes, and then when I was like really in need of food, I sat down for about 15 minutes. And even then I was kicking myself like, oh, I've wasted time. Be slick and efficient. And I probably carried a lot of stuff that I needed. And then if your support crew are good, they walk out, ask you what you want, they've got it prepped and ready for you and stuff. So, don't stop and don't let them mollycoddle you.
Okay, I've just got one more question, and then we have got time if anyone wants to ask any specific questions to Lucy now, but you will be on the panel at the end as well. But my last question was, now there's folks here who maybe are looking to run at under 20 hours, under 18 hours. What advice would you give them who are wanting to, who are aiming to try and run that fast?
General advice?
Yeah.
Do a hell of a lot of training. I mean...
Yep, there's nothing particular.
There isn't a secret, you have to do the work, don't you? So do the work and want it, I guess.
Okay, there you go. Do the work and you'll get there. Okay, have we got any questions, particularly about the race that Lucy ran, the 2007, or what she's mentioned this evening? There we go. Yes, please.
Use the microphone, please.
Yeah.
Oh no, that doesn't work, does it?
You mentioned you run with dogs. Do you do canicross events, and how important is getting dragged around trails by dogs for your training? How
important? It's not. I mean, I don't run now. Like, what I do now with the dogs, that's fun. That's not training, and I would never have run with the dogs training. That's not training, that's fun. And I have dragged the dogs, or the dogs have dragged me on 30-mile canicross songs, but that's fun. That's not quality training. I mean, it's hair-raising and terrifying, but it's not quality training.
Okay, thank you. And we have one more. Yep, John.
I mean, your record is obviously a spectacular record, and that's testament to the amount of time it's lasted. But on a different day, in a different Lucy, could you have gone faster?
I mean, I would have gone 5 minutes faster if I hadn't got lost. I genuinely, I think if I'd done it the following year, I mean, I got better. That wasn't, that wasn't like my best running year at all. So if I'd done it like a year later or 2 years later, yeah. But at the time, me being the person I was at the time, I ran as hard as I could, because I remember like on the downhill, like the pain in my legs and just absolutely just trying to hammer down the road. And I did what I could have done, I think, so.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Lucy, I say we'll be on the panel at the end, so if you've got other questions that we'll put in, but if you can just put your hands together, and once again, just thank Lucy so much. Thank you very much. That was great. Thank you.